The snow was falling in Colorado like ash from an unseen fire the night they found the body. A man, face down in the icy dark, his wrists bruised and purple as if he'd been fighting something no one else could see. No ID. No footprints leading to or away from him. Just one thing, a small metal badge half buried beneath frost, stamped with 4 unmistakable letters. ADXF. The rumor spread through the state like smoke. Someone who was never supposed to leave had escaped. Or worse, been released. 2 days later, Special Agent Daniel Mercer sat inside a dimly lit briefing room in Denver, staring at grainy photographs of the frozen corpse. Mercer wasn't just any investigator, he was known for solving cases most agents refused to touch. The kind that left careers ruined and witnesses silent. And when Mercer saw the letters ADXF, he felt something tighten inside his chest. Supermax, he muttered, flipping through autopsy notes. You're telling me this guy came from Florence? No one answered. No one had to. ADX Florence, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. The place where the government sent men they wanted the world to forget. Terrorists, cartel lords, traitors, spies. Once inside, inmates practically vanished from society. Many spent 23 hours a day in solitary, their names erased, their stories sealed. People said it was a prison built not to hold men, but to contain secrets. Now one of those secrets was lying dead in the snow. Mercer met the warden 3 days later, a tall, stern man named Grant Devereaux, whose eyes looked like they'd forgotten how to feel. The prison loomed behind him, a fortress of concrete and razor wire, surrounded by silence too thick to breathe. No one escapes, Devereaux said without emotion. So whatever you think you know, bury it. Mercer stared at him. Someone wrote ADXF on the corpse. Someone wanted us to find it. For the first time, the warden's jaw twitched. Inside the prison, Mercer walked past cells that were barely wider than coffins. Men no longer spoke like men. Some never spoke at all. They stared through the narrow slots in their doors like ghosts watching the living. A whisper followed Mercer down the hallway, a name repeated softly by several inmates, like a chant they couldn't stop. Silas Reed. Silas Reed. Mercer paused. Who is Silas Reed? No answer. Just the hum of fluorescent light and the clang of steel gates locking behind him. He found Reed's file in the records room, a thick folder with half the pages blacked out. Former military intelligence. Convicted of selling classified information. Sentenced to life without parole. But the strange part wasn't his crimes. It was the note scrawled on the final page. Status: transferred to Unit Black. Mercer frowned. Unit Black didn't exist on any map. That night he returned to the crime scene, the wind cutting like blades through the trees. Snow still marked the place where the unknown man had fallen. Mercer crouched down, brushing aside ice and dirt, searching for anything the first team missed. That's when he saw it. A second badge. Thinner. Scratched. Its engraving nearly faded. It didn't say ADXF. It held a single word. Warden. His breath stopped. If the badge came from inside the prison, then someone high-ranking had been involved. Someone wanted Silas Reed erased. Someone powerful enough to make men disappear, then bring them back only as frozen corpses in the woods. Mercer looked around, suddenly aware of how quiet the night had become. Too quiet. No footsteps. No wind. Just the feeling that someone was watching him, waiting for him to turn the wrong direction. He slipped the badge into his pocket and stared once more at the empty road stretching into darkness. For the first time in his career, he felt like the case was looking back at him. But the real shock came the next morning, when Mercer returned to the evidence locker. The corpse was gone. No record. No photographs. No file. Just an empty drawer and a message carved into the metal beneath it. Silas Reed was never here. And when the agents pulled the security footage, they found nothing but static. Then, slowly, frame by frame, one final image emerged. The dead man from the snow, alive, walking through the hallway inside ADX Florence. The footage shouldn't have existed, and yet it played on loop like a taunt. Arden, wearing an ADX uniform, walking calmly into the Federal Archive, head slightly bowed, hands behind his back as if escorted by invisible guards. Time-stamped 4:32 a.m. hours before he was physically arrested in Denver. There was no break-in, no forced entry. He appeared, frame by frame, like someone who already lived inside the system. Marshal Rourke stared at the monitor, jaw tight. Arden, still confined in his cell, hadn't moved since placement. But the evidence said otherwise. The contradiction gnawed at everyone in the room. Warden Hale ordered silence. This leak couldn't reach beyond concrete walls. ADX prided itself on being impenetrable. A ghost in the tapes threatened everything. Inside his cell, Arden sat on the bunk, hands folded, calm as ritual. Rourke entered for questioning, 2 guards at his back. The door groaned shut, sealing them in with stale air and quiet tension. "You were seen accessing restricted files," Rourke said. "How?" Arden's eyes shifted to him, slow, deliberate. "No prison holds information forever. People do." The corner of his mouth lifted, not a smile, but an admission without words. "Are you saying you had help?" Rourke pressed. Arden leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice low. "Everyone here has something to lose. Especially your warden." The accusation hit like a drop of blood in water. Rourke left the interview unsettled. Hale wasn't known for weakness, strict, relentless, 30 years in federal security. But Arden had spoken with certainty, not speculation. As if he'd studied them long before he ever stepped inside their walls. That afternoon, Rourke dug deeper. He examined Arden's arrest location, financial records, communication logs, nothing unusual, until he reached intelligence clearance reports. Arden's classified access had been terminated months prior, yet hidden within archived layers was a transfer log, confidential material relocated to ADX Florence, signed by Hale himself. How? Arden shouldn't have had prior connection to the prison. None of it aligned. At 6:40 p.m., another blow landed. A guard named Torres vanished during his shift. His radio was found inside a locked hallway, still warm to the touch. No forced entry. No signs of struggle. As if he stepped through the walls. Panic rippled through the command chain. ADX never lost a guard. Not once. Until now. Rourke requested full facility lockdown. The lights dimmed, metal doors thundered shut, and Florence sank into a silence even heavier than usual. But something about Arden's cell bothered him. Security logs flagged his biometric door 2 minutes before Torres disappeared. Not an open. Not an override. A presence detection. As if someone else was standing right outside. Rourke returned to the cell, heartbeat loud in his ears. Arden remained seated, still, untouched by chaos. What happened to Torres? Rourke demanded. Arden met his stare, unblinking. You're looking for the wrong prisoner. Rourke felt the chill before he heard the words. Arden slowly extended his hand, revealing Torres' ID badge. I told you, Arden whispered. They didn't bring me here to keep me inside. They brought me here to keep someone else from getting out. The ID badge in Arden's hand was warm, not from body heat, but from recent use. Rourke's pulse climbed as the truth twisted into shape. Maybe Arden wasn't the danger. Maybe he was the bait. The prison intercom cracked with static like bone under pressure. All units, report. We have a breach in Block D. The voice trembled, something Rourke had never heard inside Florence. Supermaxes don't tremble. Not unless fear is justified. Rourke stared hard at Arden. Who's the real inmate? Arden inhaled slowly, as if choosing words that could shatter concrete. You think ADX only holds men you've heard of, terrorists, cartel heads, killers. But sometimes the most dangerous prisoner is the one no one knows exists. The alarms deepened, a red pulse sweeping corridors like a heartbeat gone wild. Doors rattled. Radios spat fragments of panic. A guard screaming. Then silence, thick, total, unnatural. Rourke clicked his radio. Control, respond. Nothing. He had no choice. He opened the cell. Arden didn't run. He stepped out with eerie calm, like a man returning to a place he had mapped years ago. Together they moved through the dim corridors, past empty stations and abandoned equipment. The farther they walked, the colder the air felt, as if the prison itself was holding its breath. In the surveillance hub, Rourke pulled footage from Block D. His hands froze. Torres, the missing guard, was alive, but wrong. He moved with jerky precision, eyes unfocused, like someone carrying orders wired directly into his mind. Shadows trailed him, subtle at first, then unmistakable, another figure behind him, using the guard as a shield. A man with an inmate uniform. No number. No record. No name. He was here long before I arrived, Arden murmured. I accessed the files to expose him. They wiped the evidence instead. Rourke watched the nameless inmate lift his gaze toward the camera, as if he could see through the screen. Calm. Patient. A predator waiting behind steel. Rourke swallowed hard. Why bring you here? Arden turned to him, voice steady despite the chaos. They needed someone who could think like him. Someone who understood systems, pressure points, psychology. But they didn't plan for me to survive it. The unnamed inmate moved again, cutting power to half the prison. Emergency lights flickered, painting walls blood red. Rourke knew this was the moment that would define everything: escape, massacre, or truth. They hunted him through the bowels of ADX, footsteps echoing in cold concrete. Finally, in a corridor lined with meal ports and bolted doors, they found him standing still, hands at his sides, as if waiting. No violence. No struggle. He simply smiled. Michael, you made it. Recognition flashed between them, two minds, once connected by intelligence programs too classified to name. Not friends. Not allies. Just two sides of the same agenda. Arden stepped forward slowly. This ends now. Rourke never learned what passed between them: a whisper, a confession, a surrender. But when the unnamed inmate raised his hands, he spoke only 4 words. I'm done running too. The capture took minutes. The questions that followed will take years. As Arden was escorted back to his concrete box, Rourke watched him disappear behind the steel door. Not defeated, just contained. A man who saved a nation in silence and would never receive credit. That night, the prison returned to normal. But nothing inside Rourke felt normal. Some criminals you catch. Others, you just bury deeper. And somewhere in ADX Florence, behind a door with no label, a prisoner sits in the dark, a ghost with no past, a threat with no file. Because in Florence, the most dangerous prisoners aren't the ones the world knows. They're the ones the world never hears about. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss it.